Welcome to the milk bar. 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 Welcome to the milk bar.
Welcome along to episode 648 of The Milk Bar. Jason Forrest here with you as ever. And coming up on the show this week, Catherine Tyldesley, formerly of Coronation Street, talks about Greene King's current plan with the landlord knowledge. She spent her time behind the bar at the Rovers and at a pub in real life. We talked about the importance of community when it comes down to your local. On top of that, we'll be joined by Kelly Jeff, CEO of the Lighthouse, as we find out what's going on there with some fantastic films and some great artwork on display on the walls and on the big screen, as they will be showing some fantastic plays too in the run-up to Christmas. In addition to that, we'll be finding about the work of Emily the Little Match Girl, all brought to life courtesy of Matt Hickinbottom, as he has got a brand new production of the Hans Christian Andersen story, which is going to be a short film released via its portal on the 29th of November and a premiere the day before. Full details on that one. Plus, Elaine Christe joins us for a bit of a natter about her world of poetry and publishing. That's all on the way on the show this week. Emily the Little Match Girl is a movie project being worked on by Matt Hickinbottom at the moment, and he joins me now to tell me more. Hello, sir.
Hello, Jason. How are you?
I'm good. I trust we find you well.
Yes, fortunately, very well indeed.
That's the way we like it. So, you are a man behind the camera, and so did you sneak in front of it sometimes as well?
I used to in my youth, yeah, a long time ago. I used to be part of the Central Television Junior Workshop, which was all based in Broad Street in Birmingham, in the old ATV studios back in the day, which is long gone now. Sadly. Yeah, I was going to say it's long gone now, sadly. But so back in my youth, yeah, I used to spend a fair bit of time in front of the camera. But when I was doing my GCSEs at secondary school, I very much got into the technical side and the music aspects. So I was a very keen musician back in my youth, and so very, very quickly decided that if I could do stuff in front of the camera, it'd be interesting to find out what went on behind the camera. And I like to learn new things all the time. So I just found it fascinating that there was so much stuff that I didn't know. And I just, delved into it as much as I possibly could. And I suppose ended up doing more behind the camera as I was in front of the camera. And it kind of went on from there, really, I guess.
Yeah, because, I mean, when it comes to it, it's although the actors are vitally important, if they didn't move around and say things, it wouldn't be quite the same. But I would say at least 2/3 of what actually ends up on screen happens after they've put their performance in.
Oh, crikey, yeah, there's a huge amount of stuff which again, I suppose most people don't see and don't know. So if you can literally spend, well, I think the big thing is people say, well, this video project is only, for instance, 15, 20 minutes. So why does it not just take a couple of hours to put together? And they don't see that there's all the prep that goes in front of it. There's the rehearsals, the time of the actual production itself. But then there's a huge amount of post-production to make sure that edit flows correctly, the sound is mixed properly, the colours don't suddenly jump out at you. And I would probably say there's more that happens, a hell of a lot more that happens on the back end of the production to make sure that it comes out and it all looks glitzy and glammy on the other side. Definitely.
I mean, everything, but people don't notice things like maybe a 2-second cutaway, which helps tell part of the story you could never do with words or sound.
No, it's very difficult. So the power of an image is extremely important, really. Very important, yeah.
And we've obviously, of course, gone through the writing and the storyboarding stage of finding the venue, the sets, anything to do with the location, getting people dressed correctly so it doesn't look like you just bought some weird stuff off eBay and hope for the best. There's an awful
Have you seen my productions before?
But it is just so huge, and sometimes you think a 20-minute piece is probably going to take longer to do than something where but per minute on screen than something which is like an hour and a half production, because you may well be reusing sites.
Yeah, well, it literally can. Yeah, it'll take exactly the same amount of time because a lot of the pre-production stuff for any production is the same. So you'll still have to put contracts together for your actors. You'll still have to, as you say, find locations, find all your equipment. So all of that time, regardless of how long your movie is kind of like the same. But that's where I've had the benefits of with this project of the whole thing is animated. so that I haven't had to worry about going out and finding locations in any set places. All I've done is gone out and done research. So I took lots of photographs of things that I wanted to include, and then spent many an hour coming back and rebuilding these locations in a 3D environment, which has been...
You have to go and find the sets, though, for the inspiration. So it doesn't stop, does it?
Yeah, so I've been very lucky, really, especially locally. So we've had places like the Black Country Museum have been absolutely fantastic for us to go and have a wander around and take lots of photos, because it's a period piece. So it's all set in round about the... Well, my son, bless him, he's absolutely fantastic. He's told me the window of time that it would have happened with the factory act and everything else that he's been doing at school. So I was amazed. So if you're not aware, it's the story of the Hans Christian Andersen fairy tale, The Little Match Girl, and based in a UK or English setting, if you like, rather than Scandinavian where it was originally written. And we looked at what the kind of things that were happening. So it's very kind of Dickensian in its feel, and so Elliot, bless him, my eldest, was saying, well, it's obviously going to be around about 1830s to 1840s, Dad, with the factory act and what kids could and couldn't do. And I was like, this is gold for me. So, and I've got no reason to doubt him, because he's much brighter than I am when it comes to history. He loves his history. So we spent quite a lot of time going around historical places and getting inspiration and photographs and things like that. And yes, when you're doing stuff on a software basis, there are some limitations as to what you can recreate and do. But we had a lot of fun with, having a little bit of artistic license here and there, and creating this whole world in a digital 3D environment, which is quite cool, really.
And how much do we learn about Emily and her backstory then? Because obviously you're taking from a text which has been known and loved, but there is sometimes, when it comes to the likes of the fairy tales and these stories from on old, there is an assumption of kind of a now as to when they were written, that unless your son, you don't have any appreciation of, or there's sometimes the rest of the social history that went alongside the oral storytelling trope that was which gave birth to these tales.
Yeah, well, the great thing here is the original Hans Christian Andersen short story was written in 1845, and to be fair, it is a short story, and it literally explains that this girl is living on the streets to some degree, with going out selling matches, and her grandmother was the only person that she loved. She recalls a story that her grandmother told her. She strikes these matches, and then at the end of the story, if you know the story, unfortunately, it's got the ending that it has. So I started work on this project in, believe it or not, this is where it gets a bit complicated. I started working on this in 1996. So it's a big old trek to this point through various.
Are you including the conception of your son in this?
Well, it would have definitely been in there somewhere, because he's only 13. So.
Yeah.
I started working on it a very, very long time ago. And when you the original story was so short, so over that time I've developed the story into more than the original Hans Christian Andersen story. So when you're talking about do we learn about her backstory, you do a little bit, and you also learn more definitely about the social period, because we've enveloped the story. So rather than her just being out at the start, we find out that she actually still lives with her grandmother, and unfortunately her grandmother passes away at the start of the film, which then opens it up to her being left to the care of the authorities, and a corrupt constable of the time period takes this orphan girl to the local match factory and effectively sells her to the guy who runs the match factory, who's a little bit of a Fagin-esque character, if you like, from Oliver. And so he has a whole bunch of kids that he looks after and feeds. Well, I say looks after, he feeds them, and then he sends them out every day to go out onto the streets and sell his matches. And so the traditional story, if you like, is embedded within this new environment, but there's a lot more that happens. There's new characters. There's a whole string of events that happen where you've got another two characters that try and come and save Emily, or find her, because they realise that she's missing and stuff. And we've got a very a nice social class conflict as well, where we've got the working class element of it, but we've also got that this rich gentleman finds one of the girls that goes out looking for young Emily, and they team up together because they've got a little story going on, which is quite nice, to try and find her. So hopefully there's a lot more than the original story. But the original story is very squarely and securely placed in there, yeah, definitely.
And obviously, it was still relatively new mass media when this was first published back in the day. And I think that how rapidly things have moved on that allow us to tell stories in so many different ways, in a way which only acting would have been able to produce back then. It is quite exciting to think what Hans Christian Andersen would have made of this, were you to see the final project once you've got this done.
Yeah, I've no doubt it would be. Yeah, it'd be absolutely fascinating. If only we'd got time travel, it would be awesome, wouldn't it? Really, to find out. But I think it's been done several times before, in various little strands. But they've always tended to stick to a short story element or very small pieces. So hopefully this just delves that little bit deeper. And when you say about technology, even probably 7 or 8 years ago, this wouldn't have been possible. Certainly from me to be able to do. It would have been, a big multi-million-dollar studio somewhere in LA. Yeah, no problem at all. They'd have spent a long time making and creating this. But it's only been recently that technology's been able to give people like me that does smaller budget stuff the opportunity to step up and actually make something of this size, I suppose. And I've been very lucky that the company that make the software is a company called Reallusion, and they're based over in California and Taiwan. And we've been talking to them quite a lot. So they've been feeding us with updates that are coming or things that we can do within their software. So it's been absolutely fantastic, really, to be able to be on almost like the leading edge of their software to try and push what we're doing as well as what they're doing. So it's been a lovely little match made in heaven, I suppose, to some. If you'll excuse the pun.
No, there's not a clear pun there. However,
yeah, that definitely wasn't intended. That was pure accident.
Give us the details on the current stage of things and when we can expect to see this.
Okay, well, the film is completely finished, and it was only last week, so it's been quite tight schedule.
The last bit of rendering has been done.
Yeah, and crikey, I tell you, it takes a long time to render stuff out, a very, very long time. But so we've got everything's all done. So this on Sunday, the 28th of November, we've got the premiere at the NEC IMAX in Birmingham. So we've got, if you're not aware, we've got the lovely David Bradley from Game of Thrones and all the Harry Potter movies. He's voiced our matchmaker character, who's just been an absolute pleasure to work with. A lovely, lovely guy and a pure professional. He's every element that you throw at him, he just feeds back gold. It's absolutely brilliant. We've had the lovely Leslie Joseph, who is at the who you'll know from Birds of a Feather from when we were kids, I suppose.
And done some great stage work as well. She's been in Annie, which kind of fits with all this as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, the nice thing, which I wasn't even aware of when we originally approached her agent about it, was that she was nominated for a Laurence Olivier Award for Best Newcomer to the West End. I had no idea that she'd done any West End or musical work, but she was in Young Frankenstein. And so I had to very quickly come back and write a song for her so that we could get her singing in there as well, which we've done, because she got very interested in the project quite quickly. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. So, but her agent said, "Oh, it's a shame there's not a song." And I was like, "Oh, well, there is one." So very, very quickly come back and write a song for her, which has gone great. But we've got some fantastic cast locally as well. We've got our main girl, Emily, who's a girl called Meg Sadler, who's based in Derbyshire. Yeah. She's currently studying theatre at the Bird College in London. So we've been extremely lucky with the cast and the people that we've got involved, even right down to very locally. Again, because during lockdown, there's not a huge amount that can happen. So both of my boys, Elliot and Jake, are both playing characters within the film. And we've just kind of got family and friends and people that wanted to have smaller parts. But it's just been a real collaborative, let's just, regardless of what's going on in the world, let's just push through and make it happen. So it's been a great experience to do.
Well, it sounds absolutely amazing. So you've got that premiere on the 28th. What happens then? Is there a distribution deal, or are we looking at DVD and the likes of even Netflix?
Yeah, well, again, what we've done, because of the way the world is, not many people have been able to get out to the cinema, or a lot of people are still, unsure of being able to get out there. So even though we have spoke to a couple of companies, what we've actually decided to do is we've done an online distribution. So on the website that we built, which is musicalmotionpictures.co.uk or .com, they both go to the same place. As of Monday, the 29th of November, you can stream the movie live from that site. So whether that's your tablet, your phone, your laptop, your internet-ready TV, you can rent the movie from there for 48 hours and watch it to your heart's content.
So I think multiple viewings will be required, because it's going to be one of those things where you will want to watch it twice, because there's going to be so much going on that you need to look at the different elements on multiple screenings.
Well, hopefully, if you want to watch it twice, so happy days.
Give us all the details again on where they can find it.
Yeah, so it's on musicalmotionpictures.co.uk or musicalmotionpictures.com. Both go to the same place. And there's lots of extra information on there on the website into who's involved in the project, who's made it. Lots of information about the software that we've used and bits and bobs like that. So it's there's all sorts of fun and things to have a wander through there.
Well, Matt Hickinbottom, current custodian of Emily, the Little Match Girl, thank you for joining us.
You're very welcome. Thanks for having me on today. It's been great fun.
Three-quarters of pub managers know more people locally than the average resident. And it doesn't take long before you've been to your local for you to become one of those who the landlord knows. To tell us more, I'm joined now by real pub landlord Terry Rigg and also Corrie star Catherine Tyldesley. Good afternoon.
Hi, how are you?
All good here. I trust we find you both well.
Very good. Yes.
So first of all, I mean, as your time in Coronation Street, playing Eva Price, Catherine, behind the bar, you obviously knew who all the locals were because you'd seen them on telly for a number of years before you got the gig. But it's not quite that simple when it comes to real life barmaids, is it?
It's not. No, it's quite a skill. I was a barmaid for 2 years before I joined the cast of Coronation Street, so that was great training. But, the hours are very long. You have to be passionate about what you do. As a landlord or a landlady, you have to love your job. And these people are. So when the opportunity came along for me to be part of the Green King campaign, I was absolutely on board with it, because right at the forefront of what they do is bringing back that sense of community. Because we know that over the years, landlords and landladies and your local pubs have been right at the forefront. They have been pillars of the community for years and years now. And so what Green King have done is enabled them, Terry, I'm sure will tell you more about it, enabled bar staff to have extra training to, look after their staff, but to also help look after their customers, especially in terms of mental health. They can now help identify signs of anxiety or depression, which I just think is amazing.
Yeah, because Terry, you're not just there to sell beer. You're also there not to sell beer at the appropriate time too. And you've got quite a responsibility as a landlord. It is so much more than just running a pub.
Oh, 100%. It's more than just beer and bricks and mortar. It's being a part of the community, greeting different people into the business, looking after our team. And you're a pillar of the community, involved in all aspects of what's going on around you in the community. And everything from coffee and cakes to pints of beer to celebrations.
Yeah, but it's also being at the heart of the community, and we've lost too many pubs now. I mean, it's where do you go when your local goes? It isn't easy, and it's not been an easy time. And the last 2 years now have made it even more damaging to a trade, which is all centred about people getting together. But it's doing it in a safe and sensible way. And again, that's kind of part of the heart of what pubs do. You're there for the community when you need to be, but have always had to take a step back when it wasn't possible.
Oh, 100%. We get involved in all aspects of the community. We run monthly friendship groups. Anyone who's on their own or feeling a bit lonely can come down to one of our coffee mornings and meet other like-minded people in the area. Come talk to us about personal problems over the bar. And the team have been trained now to how to react and to get involved with it and supporting local charities.
And it takes 5 visits for a landlord normally to learn who somebody is and their name. And it's, again, it is just about sparking a customer interface, yes, but you basically are mates with these people pretty much at the end of the day.
100%. They become part of the family, and your pub is the community, and your locals do become part of the family, and how you look after them and getting to know someone's name. It's when you first mention the customer, they walk in by their name, you see the glow in that customer where you've taken the time to get to know that person.
And Catherine, obviously, there are lots of tips to learning names, but also learning lines is the same sort of thing. So what have you done over the years to help you get through that sort of stuff?
Oh, gosh. Well, I mean, learning lines is a different kettle of fish in many ways. But I suppose it is the repetition and those customers that are, coming in frequently, daily or weekly or whatever, of course you get to know them. And a bit like the Rovers return, all sorts goes on in a pub in your local. There are some absolutely joyous moments. I have so many happy memories of working at my local, weddings and christenings and family days and the best quiz nights. And I think at the moment there are still a lot of people who are very apprehensive, who are feeling lonely, who are feeling shy, perhaps a little bit timid and scared after the past 18 months. And I think the great thing about the Greene King Local Pubs campaign is that you do have a safe environment to go to. And there are people there that you can talk to if you want to, particularly guys, because we know that statistically guys don't talk as much as we do, and the male suicide rate is still very high, as with anxiety and depression. So often people feel more comfortable in a pub environment, to open up and chat to each other, whether you drink or not. I'm not a big drinker, but we're always at our local because we love that sense of community. Mm-hmm. And I think it's so important that we support our local pubs, because the hospitality sector was well and truly forgotten about over the past 18 months. They've been treated so badly. So it's down to us to support them now.
Yeah, and when it comes to your local, Terry, I mean, with the knowledge that you've done, the landlord knowledge, a bit like we've heard about for taxi drivers in London, but it allows you to see the route through running a proper pub.
Oh, 100%. Get to know more about your community, what makes it tick, and how to engage with even easier with your locals when they're coming through.
And when you're part of something like Greene King as well, that support's there behind you, backing up this work that you're doing.
Oh, 100%. And support Greene King gave to me personally when I came back from COVID was phenomenal. So now that we can actually support our rest of our team and our locals is even greater. So we're lucky to have Greene King. And
the likes of Berrybrook Farm, just outside Wolverhampton. I mean, that's one of the farmhouse inns brand from Greene King, and you go there for food and maybe a drink as well. But these places are offering top quality food, and it's about making that accessible to people to go out for something which is a little bit different but not too expensive.
Oh, 100%. That's the whole idea of Greene King, is to be the community hub.
So, again, Catherine, your time on the street was as an interesting one. We don't want quite as many dramas in real life pubs as you guys saw on the cobbles.
Yeah, I mean, the Rovers' return has seen some pretty hairy moments. I think you can rest assured that your local Greene King won't be quite as dramatic, but they'll be very friendly. They'll serve great food, and they're there if you need a friendly ear, which is so important, especially now more than ever.
Where can we go for more information about the campaign?
If you look on the Greene King website, it's Greene King Locals, and if you type in your postcode, it will bring up your local Greene King pub to you, where the staff, my colleagues, are waiting to greet you with open arms.
And go along and enjoy your local. And this is all part of making sure that these locals are there for many more centuries, just as they have been for, literally millennia already, isn't it?
100%. Get to know your local.
That's the way to do it. All part of the community and all part of enjoying some great time together. And what better way of doing that than over a pint? I think that sounds like a good one, whether it's a diet drink or a full fat beer. So you can enjoy that however you want to do. Well, Catherine Tyldesley, of course, Corrie star, and Terry Rigg from Greene King, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a good day.
The home of cinema in Wolverhampton is, of course, the Lighthouse. And I must apologise to Kelly Jess because I haven't had a chance to have a catch-up with her for a while. But she joins me now to have a natter about what's going on. How are you doing?
Hi, Jason. I'm all right. How are you?
Oh, we're getting by, thank you. Now, we were talking just before the whole James Bond thing happened, and hopefully that was a good time down there at the Lighthouse.
It certainly was, yeah. I mean, it brought in so many new faces as well, which was really encouraging. But obviously James Bond can't save everything, and there's still a slight cloud of COVID in the background, so struggle continues, and that's a national picture. I'm not just saying that from Lighthouse's point of view. It's a difficult time for the venues, so we'll keep fighting.
Absolutely, and the Lighthouse is well worth fighting for. That has been a battle which has sadly had to go on for nearly a decade of ensuring that people know that it's there and using it. And because once you get somebody into the Lighthouse, they become a regular. That's how it works. And my night in town is a night you're not open at the moment, Monday night, so I'm missing out on coming to the Lighthouse. But I will, fingers crossed, be back with you in the near future. I know I've got to pop in and have a chat with Aaron in the not too distant future about a film festival. So we'll be finding out about that. But we can touch on that now, but what else is going on down there at the minute?
Well, in terms of the films, we've got, you know, all the big ones that you would expect to be seen in an independent cinema. We're really proud of how we blend our programme together to bring the main films that people are expecting, but also to pepper it with some of the smaller independent releases. So coming up, currently we've got Spencer, which is the much anticipated film around the week. It's set over 3 days. Princess Diana's played by Kristen Stewart, and we're having interesting feedback about that. It's not an episode of The Crown.
It's somewhat different, yeah, because that is highly dramatised and quite clearly, in a lot of cases, made up. I think that we have to accept that. Anything with Olivia Colman in is a bit of a drama, isn't it?
Well, which leads me nicely on to the next one we're showing, which started last Friday. It's on for the rest of the week. Is Mothering Sunday with Olivia Colman, Josh O'Connor. Again, it's a period costume piece, love story. It's beautifully shot, beautifully, stunning costumes and settings and set design and that. But again, it's Olivia Colman. She's a bit Marmite. You either love her or you hate her.
I have to. I like it from both points of view, because it's like going to see a Sean Connery film, isn't it? In many ways, because not the Bond days, but later on, it was like you got Sean Connery, and whether that was something you loved or hated in that movie, that was how it went. But Olivia Colman, I think, is almost like your modern day sort of character actor who does that character, and you get a feel for what she's going to play, because they know how to use her.
Exactly. There's an interesting one coming out in the new year, which we'll talk about another time, which it's just come onto my radar. So that's something, some of the product that's coming through with Olivia Colman in 2022. So the other films we've got coming up are King Richard, which looked fabulous. I haven't had the privilege of seeing it yet. About the father of Serena and Venus Williams, the tennis champions. And we've got a lovely little French film called Petite Maman, which is the follow-up film from Celine Scalia, who was the director of Portrait of a Lady on Fire. And if anyone didn't get to see that, I would highly recommend it. It's actually on BBC iPlayer at the moment, and it's the most beautiful film. And so that's from the 26th of November. And we're bringing James Bond back for another week, just because we know there are people that, even though we showed it for 4 weeks, there were still people that just couldn't quite get to it. So that's back by popular demand. And then we're running into House of Gucci, which is the new Adam Driver, Lady Gaga vehicle, which people are, raving about. They're really looking forward to that. It's got
that's because they just ooze talent. That's what it is. However you see, they're just oozing talent on screen, and it's just. I think there's probably a move towards some films which are probably a little more sort of star-driven than there has been for a while as well. And I think that makes it a quite interesting time in the cinema.
Absolutely. I think with someone like Lady Gaga, because she did very well in The Star Is Born. I thought she was magnificent in it. It's not everyone's cup of tea, but she, I can see that she's trying to sort of navigate her way through into the film as part of her career development. I think films are something that she wants to prioritise. That's what she said to me the last time I met her.
Well, obviously, yeah.
Again, back to this one isn't particularly talent-led in terms of known actors, but there's the remake of West Side Story coming through. We've got it from the 10th of December. And it's Steven Spielberg that's directed it, and it's been talked about. It's almost been talked about as much as the Bond, when everybody was waiting with bated breath for that to come out.
Mm-hmm.
Now West Side Story is actually hitting the screens, and we can't wait to screen that. You know, if you're into musical theatre, West Side Story is one of my favourite films, and I'm not a real big musical theatre fan, but it is one of my favourites. It's just amazing, and the subject matter is still as prominent now as it was, you know, when it was first released.
Yeah.
Well, you know, ultimately it's Romeo and Juliet, isn't it? So the story, you know, continues through every generation.
Yeah, absolutely. Through the decades, through the centuries, and still relevant today. And this is just a taster of what you have going on over at the Lighthouse. I mean, your exhibition space has been probably less used recently than ever before, but there are still things going on.
Well, we've had a full exhibition programme since July, and it's booked right through now up until next May. Next June, we've got British Art Show, Fringe event. We've got the Deaf Film and TV Festival. They're doing an exhibition. We've got Edward Hammond Galleries that he's just done one last month. He's coming back in April. There's all sorts of things going on in the gallery. But the other thing we use the gallery for is to host and accommodate community group meetings, or singing for lung health people, for example. And all these groups that we've nurtured relationships with before COVID, they're all slowly starting to come back now, which is absolutely brilliant to see faces that we haven't seen for nearly 2 years, you know, and they're all, you know, coming back in as, you know, we're still classed as a safe environment. We're not, you know, inundated with hundreds of people. So
one thing you've got is space, though, and a high roof, and that makes such a huge difference.
Exactly. And I mean, things like, you know, theatre, like I said earlier, everybody's having, in terms of venues, there's still, you know, questions and confidence of audiences wanting to come back. Do they, don't they? You know, and it's a long road ahead. And, you know, in terms of theatre, we were introducing the theatre programme back into our programme, into our offer as well. So we're starting off with Anything Goes, with Robert Lindsay, Gary Wilmot, Felicity Kendall production. That's on the 2nd of December. So we're so excited to be bringing back the theatre side of things as well. And then we've got the wonderful Nutcracker from the Royal Ballet on the 9th of December, which you can't have Christmas. You know, you can't run an independent cinema without showing the Nutcracker. Yeah,
it absolutely has to be done, and I think it's going to make everybody's festive period so much better.
I know, and we've got such a brilliant programme for the festive period. We've got what we're calling a pick and mix, where you can out of 5 films and have a special discount. We're going to be announcing details about that shortly. We're going to be showing Die Hard, Paddington, Elf, It's a Wonderful Life, and Home Alone.
This is just so you can enjoy all your Christmas indulgences, isn't it?
This is it, yeah. And I've never seen Die Hard, so that's got to be sorted out. And then we're also screening a wonderful new production of A Christmas Carol, which includes contemporary dance. It stars Andy Serkis and I can't think of the Kerry Mulligan. She's in it. It's a beautiful contemporary dance piece. And then, you know, in terms of Christmas, you know, you could come and get a gift voucher for one of your loved ones as a present. We're also a selling point for the gift card, the city gift card.
I spotted that, yeah. You can, and that's all part of Wolverhampton being able to go out and spend in our city. And it's all about keeping money local, whether it is going to the cinema or eating out. Make sure you're going to the independents wherever you can. Yeah, the other stuff obviously are employing people in our city, so there is cash to be had there if it's a national company in the heart of our city. But spend it in our city and go for the independents where you can, because they absolutely deserve it.
Yes, absolutely. We're having to fight really hard to keep going, and you know, for the city itself to have something special for people to go to. You know, it's a difficult time, and we want to be able to offer an escape and a place that people can relax and enjoy and be entertained. But also, you know, we need support as well as an arts charity. Mm-hmm. We're hosting an all hands on deck on 11th of December, which is a fundraiser for Lighthouse. All Hands on Deck is a vinyl night where you can bring in your own vinyl, put your name on the board, and play 3 or 4 songs of your own. So it's a really eclectic mix of music. It's a great atmosphere. So we're really excited that the All Hands on Deck guys are supporting Lighthouse this time. And also we are going to be launching a new crowdfunder in the coming week. Just to, again, we're an arts charity, and charities have to make a call for support on a regular basis, and that's what we'll be doing, just to sort of help ongoing costs to keep going into 2022, when there's going to be so many exciting opportunities for the city. We want to be part of that still. We don't, and we need a collective to keep supporting us to keep going.
Yeah, and it's through that core of people who, if they can't come and use the facilities because it's not something for them, which amazes me, but there might be some of those people out there, you can still fund it. Don't worry, you can join in that way. But equally, to know that there is this sort of arts venue that has got such a wide range of opportunities for local artists, but are still playing on a national scale. And you've even been featured on Channel 4 News. They came and did a show from there. There's all sorts that happens because of Lighthouse helping to put Wolverhampton on the map. And even with TEDx talks that have taken place in the past, I know that you've been working with them on the recruitment drive as well recently. So there's all sorts of things that Lighthouse does that you might not realise it, but it's certainly well worth being part of. Me bumping into Noddy Holder down there with the Willard Wiggins exhibition in the past. All these things are just a big part of Wolverhampton life, and the Lighthouse is at the heart of that and has been for 3 decades.
Absolutely. There's never a dull moment.
to do it. Right, so we need all the details on where we can find out about everything that's going on, and of course to book tickets, and then sort of spot the likes of the crowdfunder when it all happens. Yeah,
so our number is 01902 925 225. We're not open on Mondays, but we're open from 12 late morning every day apart from Mondays. So you can ring up and book tickets over the phone or online, light-house.co.uk. You can follow us on Facebook, Lighthouse Cinema and Cafe Bar, or Twitter @Lighthouse Media, and everything's updated. You can sign up to our weekly newsletter. If you subscribe on the website, it's really easy, and then you'll get an email once a week with everything that's coming up in the coming weeks ahead. So please do that.
Absolutely. Support Lighthouse wherever you can, however big or small that contribution, whether it's using the place or just talking about it. That's a great start, and it will help to keep alive a venue which is just truly, truly essential for our city. Kelly Jeffs, always good to speak to you. Thank you for joining us, and we will catch up again in the not too distant future.
Thank you, Jason.
Elaine Christe is a published poet working on a project called Wingset, and also has been part of many, many other great live events too, and joins me now to tell me a little more about her world. Hello.
Hello.
So give us a bit of background to start off with. Let's hear the story.
Well, I first started doing an anthology in 2014 called Restless Bones.
Mm-hmm.
And I had poetry from Virginia McKenna and Richard Bonfield,
mm-hmm.
and many of the spoken artists that I really liked. I went round and asked if they'd join in. And it helped raise funds for Born Free USA to fight the fur trade.
And obviously a very, very worthy cause, and something which in this day and age should never, ever have been an issue. But unless it's the likes of our arts that raise these things, very often we don't always get the sort of response from people as we would like.
No, it was from a different perspective, so that we hoped we would reach more people with poetry.
Mm-hmm. So give us a bit of a tale of what goes on with your open mic nights, because we're used to music open mic nights, but poetry is again another world which is very welcoming to new performers.
Yes, I run. Well, I did up until lockdown. Run Poetry Bites, mm-hmm. which is based in Kings Heath with my co-host Matt Nunn, who's another excellent poet. And he was actually my tutor, my first tutor years ago.
So a great team there, and bringing new poets and people who just want to sort of share some prose and have the opportunities to see what others think of their work as well. And I think poetry is one of the things you often write for yourself but share with others, and I think that's what makes it special in amongst all of the arts.
Yes, definitely. It really does have any kind of poetry. I mean, short stories as well have been done at Poetry Bites. So we're quite welcome to everybody who wants to join in.
Mm-hmm. So fingers crossed we'll see that restarting again soon as things calm down a little. But again, you're all part of a world who is taking this pandemic very seriously. We know it's not over yet, and it is about being able to feel comfortable and safe. So we're not always quite there at the moment. But what else is you're working on at the minute?
Well, from Restless Bones, because I like the name so much, I decided to set up a publishing company, and that's called Restless Bones Publishing.
Yeah.
And I published my first collection in 2019, just a month or two before lockdown, and that's called Hear My Cry. And the one we just released is Wingset, which is a poetry anthology for to raise funds for my local RSPCA.
So obviously animals very close to your heart, and any creatures that can't defend themselves need our assistance, and certainly you're doing great work there. So that is, I know, appreciated by all who work in that sort of area, and allowing the funding to be there. But equally, being able to write something of the stories of some of those creatures too, I'm sure that's something that you take great pleasure in doing as well.
It is, but it can also be very heartbreaking. As an activist, you do see the worst side of things, and sometimes the joy of these animals gets lost. And so I try to bring not only the sad cases that I've had to deal with, but how I see the animals, the joy, the magic in them.
And from that as well, it has been the piece of work that's been included in a publication by Extinction Rebellion too.
Yes, they included Invisible Tribe, which was about the Amur leopards. There were only 14 when I first wrote the poem, and gradually through conservation they've increased, and it's over 90, and I hope they carry on.
Yeah, and obviously there's a lot of work there, making sure the gene pool is right, and helping these creatures to thrive again after man has done so much damage, not only to them but their environment. Sometimes because they feel, people have felt threatened by them and have tried to protect themselves, but equally, often you're taking over their land. So you have to look at this from the animal's point of view as well.
It is. You have to see from all sides. It's not just a quick fix on one level. It takes many levels. And people do tend to encroach on their land. So it's trying to find a way around it. But leopards are rather secretive, and they really just want to keep out of humans' way.
The shame is that they're so beautiful to look at as well. I mean, we want to see them, but they are the pattern that they have for stealth purposes, for definite. But there you go. So there's an awful lot in your world, and people can do this by following you on Facebook and also seeing your work through the publishing company. So give us all the details on where we can find what's going on.
Well, at the moment, I'm on Facebook under Elaine Christe, or there's Poetry Bites Anthology. That will tell you all about Poetry Bites and our upcoming competition. And then we shall be starting another anthology next year to raise funds for a different charity. So we're just hoping to do it for many charities. The website is still being rearranged. So that's not available just yet, but it will be.
But look for Elaine Christe on Facebook, and people will be able to find you, follow you, and see what is coming up. And once that website is there in all its glory, they'll be able to share and revel in that and see more of your work online. But I look forward to the return of Poetry Bites. I would love to be able to come along to one of these events in the not too distant future. So fingers crossed. Keep us posted. Let me know when that's back up and running, and we'll get you and your co-host on the line to have a chat about that then. But for now, Elaine Christe, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
That's all for this week. Thank you so much for joining me. Back with episode 649 next week. I'll see you then. Ta-ra for now.
Goodbye from the milk bar. 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 Yeah. Goodbye from the milk bar. Yeah.